Welcome back to Ladies Who Create, the podcast where we dive into the personal and professional stories of women making waves in design and creativity. I'm Liz Meyer, art director in tech and co-founder at Dataland.
And I'm your other co-host, Jess Rosenberg, and I'm a creative director currently working in the tech industry.
Today, we're joined by someone whose work we've admired from afar for years, Leanne Diaz. From painting portraits in Mumbai to redefining brand design at some of the most iconic names in tech, like Reddit, Grammarly, Handshake, and now Brex. Leanne has built a career that's both deeply creative and strikingly intentional. This conversation covers everything from the evolving role of brand designers to staying hands-on as a design leader, and to why the word unhinged should absolutely be part of your creative vocabulary. It's candid, thoughtful, and full of gems. So let's get into it.
Hi, Leanne. So great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jess and Liz.
Hi.
I have followed your work for so long. I'm excited to finally meet and have a conversation.
Too.
Well, I've known Leanne for a while now.
Yeah.
We worked together a few years ago.
A few years ago, but yeah, Jess, I was telling Jess earlier, we find ourselves in the same spaces and same Slack channels and whatnot, but been meaning to have a conversation with her for so long.
Yeah, I'm so glad this
and
is
hey,
the day.
hey again, Liz.
Hi.
Well, I'm glad we finally are. Well, without further ado, I think let's just dive into it. I'd love to start us out talking about what first sparked your interest in design. How did that lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, for one, I did not plan on, I think, and that's more of the norm for a lot of us. Like, I didn't plan on it. I started in fine art. I wanted to be a painter. I grew up in Mumbai. I went to art school there. And, I did intense portraiture in oil for 3 out of my 4 years in art school. After that, I worked agency side for a few years as a visual designer. Then I moved to San Francisco. I was in orientation for an MFA program at CCA, and then I dropped out of that to join Reddit. And, it was a cool opportunity and I didn't want to pass on it. So I took that opportunity. I worked at Reddit. I was their first brand designer. So I got to do a ton of cool work, and I didn't really know what it entailed. Like I wasn't really seeking to grow a career in in-house brand design. I didn't even think of that as a function within a company at the time. But, it was just me and 2 other designers. So 2 other product designers. And I joined them as a third designer, but focusing more on the brand side of things. I got to work on a ton of cool things. We launched like a publication called Upvoted that later turned into their blog. But like when we launched it, it was like this magazine that served as the front page of the internet. Reddit wasn't quite accessible to a general audience at the time. And this is 2015. So that was really cool. So like I designed that, and I got to then also do editorial illustration for what we published on there a ton. And then we launched the first Reddit app. Reddit didn't have their own native app, so we launched that. And it was really great because as a one-person brand design team, I worked on everything that we did to launch it, from like the app store stuff to what was on the website to ads. And it was really something, to see the downloads go from 0 to 10 to the thousands, and then now millions of people use it. So it was really something. Yeah, so just that was like, so I think my start in brand design was just, some of it was happenstance. And then after that, I joined Grammarly because by then I feel like I had internalized this role, working in-house, working close to product teams, and, being able to see how products are made and how, like, seeing my work in front of an audience in real time. So that I think really grew on me. Okay, then I joined Grammarly. I actually, in between Reddit and Grammarly, I did work at Crunchbase, which is like, I used to do a ton of editorial illustration there with you. Like I republish things on TechCrunch and Yahoo News and whatnot. So like just a ton of editorial design and illustration I did in between that. And then when I went to Grammarly, I led the brand design team there. So kind of similar to Reddit, I was the fourth designer on that team.
Oh my gosh.
There were two product designers, one brand designer, and then I joined to manage that designer. And then, I was able to grow and lead that brand design team. And when I left, we were a team of 20. And like, it was really great. And it was something I hadn't done before because like we're multiple disciplines on my team. I had visual identity, communication design. We also had a designer focusing on workplace experience and our employer brand in general. We had motion designers and illustrators and also brand experience, which is brand design within the software, within the user interface. There's really something, and then also being able to work on highly focused creative experiments and ads and like marketing, very, very, surgical marketing and brand stuff. And then also like then the blue skies and broader projects and big brand campaigns as well. That was really a great range. And after that, I joined Handshake, and that's where I'm at now. And I lead the brand design team here.
That's so cool. It's so interesting. I've been on Reddit for quite some time. I was raised on the internet. I live on it. I loved Reddit when it was like very little, and it was so fun to see so many different perspectives in one, like aggregated into one space that wasn't just like Twitter. Like that magazine, I remember seeing that back then.
Yeah.
And being like, this is really cool.
Fangirl.
How did you do that as a single brand designer? How did you like pitch these ideas, or did you?
They had a whole team of writers and an editor working on the content for that. Then they later became like the content team for marketing in general. But yeah, they were very skilled and renowned writers that joined us to create the content on there. And they also had different like beats, as you would on a news site. Some of them would write or cover, entertainment and pop culture stuff. And then there was other like gaming, sometimes, not sometimes, but like we also covered the more serious and impactful stories that were happening on Reddit at the time. And it's cool that you say, first of all, I love to hear that you remember that. But also, yeah, this whole thing of Reddit is such a big part of being raised on the internet, or like of internet culture for the last 15 years. Like for me, because when I joined Reddit, I had just moved here from India where I grew up. So I didn't have all the cultural context. I was very fresh and new. But because it was Reddit and because I grew up on the internet, it felt very comfortable and very at home. So cool. Yeah, that definitely resonated with me as well.
Yeah, like finding your spot, like finding your people at your first, major job. That's really important too. Just feeling like it's a company fit and not just like a personal fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a pretty exciting time. I believe I was like, we were under 100 employees at that time. So for Upvoted, Alexis worked on that. That was his idea. So Alexis Ohanian, like he wanted to build or help make Upvoted a thing, and that was his vision. And it was really cool and exciting to work on a project like that at that time.
Yeah.
you know?
Especially with something, like the CEO.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, the CEO was still Steve Hoffman at the time,
Okay.
and he was, and he was also a leader there as leading the company as a co-founder.
And it's cool to hear how you continue to go to other companies, tech companies, as an in-house designer. I feel like it takes a certain kind of person to thrive in those environments, and then to do it over and over and over again. Like me, like we're probably very much alike if we continue to.
Yeah, I think so.
But I'm wondering were there any pivotal moments in your career that stood out to you, or that, you look back on and think, wow, like that really helped shapes me into who I am today?
Yeah, well, you put it well. I definitely think like Reddit, like I mentioned, like that set me on this path, and without initially knowing this was the path. I just knew this was good people. It was fun work, and this is my vibe. So I continue to do it. So definitely that. But beyond that, I think so. When I had started to manage a team and do it fully and in earnest, like Grammarly, I think it was that would be one part of the evolution. I would think was like pivotal for me, because like initially I tried to go by the book, being a design manager. So, I have to do these things, be an operator, et cetera, et cetera. And I did. And then, as the years passed, and then when I moved on from there, and I'm now at Handshake, I think I've come a full circle, because initially I thought being a leader is like you exclusively design through others. You design, you make you put all the structures and the operations in place to make the design happen, and that is your role. But I've kind of had these moments in the last maybe 3 years or so where I've been thinking about like why I'm here, or like why am I doing what I'm doing, and how does it connect to who I am. And I'm saying this is pivotal because I struggled with it a bit, because I had this like urge to design, but at the same time, as ladies who create in the space, there's like perception at play, and gatekeeping is a thing. And I'm always insecure sometimes about, will I be perceived as too much in the weeds or too much in the pixels if I'm design, or would I not be perceived as a leader, things like that. There's those fears, and I think I overcome it, because at the end of the day, I know who I am, and I know what I want to do to feel fulfilled as a designer. So I think like now I actually do a ton of hands-on design with my team as well, and we can chat more about that. But I think having that realization and making that shift and doing both, so I do both at the moment, it just feels right. So that would be another pivotal thing for me.
Well, did you go a long while as a leader without doing design work and realize, oh my God, I really miss this? Or has it always been part of your kind of leadership DNA?
I used to like unknowingly do it at first when I turned into a designer. There's like the initial first, it's like, let me just do it.
Yeah.
I just, I do myself.
It'll be faster if I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's
Totally
a class. Let me do it. So that I think, and then I would always there was always a little bit of strife involved. It's just like it felt uncomfortable, or it felt unnatural at first. And then I got to a point where then I was more, in air quotes, disciplined as a manager. But then I think I was still missing again. I mean, I would totally find that fulfillment outside of work in my own personal project. But then just, you always have that itch to design. And I think, and I was doing it, but in an uncomfortable and not intentional way before. And now it's more of I'm doing it because I know who I am.
Yeah, that's great. I love that so much.
Yeah. Do you get is it more that you got buy-in from your leaders, or did you feel like you were able to just make that shift on your own, like with your team?
Yeah, I think that's such an important and poignant thing you're asking, because like that isn't like, you can't assume that's going to be the case everywhere. Like every company and everyone will have the space to actually lean in on the craft without any, without that, what I mentioned earlier about a certain perception or a certain bias that you're not a leader, whatever. So yes, 100%. I think I found that space here at Handshake. Like culturally, there's more of an encouragement to, roll up your sleeves and stay connected to your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Even outside of design, I see people in leadership really invested in the work being done, and they could do the work themselves if they had to, no problem. And I appreciate that, along with, just being pragmatic and like strategic about, sometimes it could be the case that if I jumped in or I swooped in on something not at the right time, it would slow things down and make the project less good. It's not always that if I chose to touch it is better. I very much am capable of making things worse. So I think it's just being real with yourself and being intentional. That's why, like the pivotal moment is now that I'm intentional about it. Just, I know why I'm doing it. I know when to jump in, and I know how to do it.
It is an interesting thing to be an IC and being hyper focused on like doing the work, but then also expected to lead in my own, domain and help people and mentor, and then do all these other like ops kind of things. So there is like a disconnect, I think, in jumping from IC to leadership, that it's not like coming together in my head yet. I'm hoping through conversations it will, but that it's almost like you have to stop your craft to become that next level. And I don't know how to do that. So hearing you speak about this is very encouraging. So I know that there's like a light on the horizon.
Maybe it's on us to try and dispel that narrative in the industry more.
Maybe.
Very much a narrative that, I've heard that since back when I was an IC, is that once you become a leader, like no more design for you, But I tried to break that norm, and I see other creative directors and leaders breaking that norm, especially in tech. So maybe it's just something we need to perpetuate and just, craft a new narrative and make sure people know that, it's okay.
Yeah, let's meme it. Let's make it.
Yeah, like do you even
design?
Do you
even design, girl?
Do you even design lead? Or like a severance meme of like your innie is a design leader, but your outie is a designer.
Wouldn't that be like? There's a certain point when you get burnt out with work, and you're just like, actually, severance sounds kind of cool.
Well, you just shut off my brain once I walk out of my home. It's cool.
Yes, there are some parts of that show that 100% that feel desirable at times.
Yeah,
I will say that much.
I don't know if most of it does, though. Maybe that's just me.
No, not most of it.
Yeah, no, not most. Some parts, like
having so many things on your plate that occur, like when you're remote, especially you're in your home, all the things are happening around you that you need to get to. Your dog needs to be walked. I don't know, your kid needs to get picked up from school. Your partner has spilled water in the kitchen. I don't know. That there are things happening, and you have to also be present for your job. But it's like, which priority is more important at a certain point? So it's, I don't know. I think like, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, they do a good job though, showing that when the same people they're on the severed floor, when they're lacking the context of who they are as a human and what's going on out in the world, they are so different people, and they do a good job showing that lack of depth.
Yeah.
So well, I there's always an argument to be made as which is better, having boundaries, having those rigid boundaries, or especially as designers operating with the awareness of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, because like when you go to work every day, how do you it's just like there's like a shift in your entire personality sometimes. When you go to work, you have to become an entirely different person and react to things differently and lose a sense of empathy in a way for mistakes and like those little details that normally shouldn't bother you, but at work they kind of do. Do you ever feel like you're struggling with like your work persona versus your outside, your Audi persona?
my Audi. I love that we're talking in severance.
I know. I'm like,
terms.
sorry.
I love that. I'm very preoccupied by that show, so I don't mind it at all. I'm happy. I found an excuse to talk severance. I think for me, actually, that since we're talking about that show has made me think, or not that show. It's like I have been thinking lately about this whole idea of like when we say work-life balance. So it's this concept of it assumes that work and life are two entities of equal significance, and they're on two sides of the scale. But is it? Like, I think work is a small part of life. So it's more like one is a subset of the other. So that's how I've been thinking about this stuff in general. To your point, is like your design self outside of business context and your design within the company. And I think, it's more like a universe of work with different worlds. What you do at work is one world, and then it's like you travel.
Love that.
You travel, or that's how I think of it. Because when you think of that, it's like my craft and the universe of everything therein is larger than what I'm doing here. And also just recognizing this is a very controlled environment where the power dynamic is a very specific one.
Yeah.
It will always be different from when you make art. So when you make art for a living, will always be very, very different from when you make art for nothing in return. So you have to do that to offset it, I think.
Really a lot to think about today.
Yeah. I'd love for maybe we can dig into what your design and artistic self looks like outside of work. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of art and illustration. Well, you can find me on Instagram, but I post it on social. And I think because I started in art, like fine art, I've kind of always kept drawing over the years. And it's interesting because when I went to art school, it was very intense. Like I mentioned, 3 out of 4 years, I was doing like realistic portraiture in oil. And it was more like technique above what you have to say creatively. We'll see about your creative expression later. You get the technique first, learn how to draw, and there is a wrong way to do it and there's a right way to do it. So it was very like rigid at the time, and necessarily so. I'm happy I got the skills, but the truth is, like, when I graduated, I didn't have anything to say as an artist because I was so preoccupied with getting the technique. And that's also why design kind of felt like the easy thing to do from there, because it's easier to just follow the brief than to know who you are as an artist. That's so existential and heavy and scary. And then I think I continue to draw, and I do a lot of illustration just for myself. And, I grew up I grew up around a lot of Bollywood posters and colorful typography. I also watched a ton of MTV as a kid and loved the little animations. And we had our own version of MTV later on, like MTV India. And then we had another music channel called Channel V. and they had all these cool animations and music videos in the 90s. So I don't know, I just really crowded small, intricate, colorful things, and I try to enjoy that in my free time. But yeah, and now I think I kind of like conjure back those skills as I need them in order to tell a story. So it kind of switched, technique was first and story was secondary, and now it's the opposite.
I can see those influences in the Handshake brand.
Yeah, I was gonna actually that would be my direct next question.
Totally.
Yeah. the bright colors.
Yeah, and the little, because I remember when we were working together, that was just coming out. That was like the new brand that was like starting, and it was like really fun and just different and like bubbly and exciting. Like,
especially
cool.
From, if I remember correctly, because I remember when you went to Handshake, and I think I remember looking at the brand and I was like, oh, she's going to disrupt the shit out of this, and I cannot wait to see it. It did, and it's just such a bold, energetic, colorful brand now, and it's been really cool to just watch its journey since you've been there.
That's amazing. Thanks. Thank you for that. That's super nice to hear. Yeah, that was the hope, because Handshake on their enterprise side, they're like a HR tech or like a recruiting software, and if you look at other companies in that space, like that's not a thing. Like they don't all have bold brands, so it just felt let's change that. Let's be the bold brand and the cool kid on the block, and I think we are now. And it's been so much fun. I try not to make it like too much me, which is why I think it's even more important for me to just get it out of my system outside of work. So all the crazy things I'll just do there. But it's sometimes it comes in handy, it's just like sometimes I'll find myself telling my team, or when we're jamming on things, it's, oh no, I think it can look a little bit more unhinged. I think we can take that chance. This is only Instagram. I mean, who are we kidding? But it's just, I think we can have a little bit more fun.
I love that. Gosh.
Yeah.
Refreshing.
I love that. I know.
Love an unhinged brand. It's just like speaks my language.
Yeah,
the brand should be fun, and they should be delightful, and they should, unless you're like Chase Bank, okay, maybe you have to like be a little boring, but
and it's easier to pull it back when you know how that you've been able to push it so far. It's easier. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I'll make a little PDF with some type and some clean layouts. No problem. Like that. It's easier to do that when you've learned how to be unhinged, I think.
Yeah.
How do you engage with your team in that way, explaining what unhinged is and how to make it cool? Yeah. I would say, in my experience, talking to a lot of junior designers or mid-level, it's like there's a fear to put yourself out there and do the weird thing because you're afraid it's going to be too far outside the scope. Blah, blah. So just super interested in that.
Yeah, well, I just tell them to make it pop.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, I thought you were.
That's hilarious. I do.
Wow.
I don't like that, but I'll be like, I'm gonna sound like a monster, so I just need a caveat that I need to make your cops.
Someone told me the other day, make the logo bigger. I was like, I've literally never heard that before, and I'm
my ears are bleeding now. Thank you.
That's funny. Well, I think it's less like. Also, I don't think I use the word unhinged that much. It's more, all the things that I said about knowing who you are and what your voice is as a creative and everything. I think that applies to having a collective creative voice as well. So over the last few years, since we got the rebrand, for one, like when we were doing that, so Manuel designed our word mark and some key parts of our identity, and then we took it from there. We designed the systems, the illustration, and then we've also kept evolving it very much since then. So the whole time, including when the rebrand was happening, what I think one of the ways to do that is to just bring your team along. Just like this is the last thing I would want would be to have like just, oh, okay, these are the guidelines and follow them. It's like they had a part in shaping that. So that was the first thing I would say, to get the team to kind of like for us to have this, to be on the same wavelength mentally about what unhinged is or whatever, or like what we're going for. And then I think it's also like letting them take risks, or just not letting them, but like just creating a space for them to take those risks if they want to and come up with those ideas. And then following through on it also means sometimes then firmly advocating for them in the context of, the marketing requirements, and coming from a place of, the design, this is the design that we came up with. Or when I'm playing a role in setting what the marketing requirement was in the first place, it's easier and it feels more natural than to advocate for what design is done for it. But if I'm only responding to a pre-existing marketing brief that I had no part in, then it will feel like, then the dynamic is different. It's let's put this in front of the marketer and see what they think vibe, which is not my vibe.
Yeah,
does that answer your question? I know I rambled a little bit there.
No, that was great. It also brings up another question for me, having come from a very similar background. Like I went to art school, really didn't focus as much on graphic design. I wanted to be an illustrator. And then found myself in-house, and I find I'm like learning on the job, all the language that people use, and how to set up a presentation for senior leadership, so that because they have 2 minutes to read something and can't show them everything, just stuff like that. Like how did you find your way through that?
Yeah, lots of acronyms.
Yeah,
lots and lots. I will never know all the acronyms. I think I've made peace with that. I will never know them, and it's okay. Well, how did I figure? I don't think I have, for one, and also I screw up all the time, like every day, and that's just so I think the things that I do know now or do somewhat well are the things I very 100% have failed at before. When, it's just, but I think you just gotta put yourself out there, go out there or unmute yourself and ask the dumb question or ask the silly thing or whatever, just, I've been in my head. I get in my head a lot, and that's just something I try to keep telling myself. It's just, it's okay. I like, what is that? It's like your batting average. As long as it's good, you're good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're not gonna get it right, and it's never. I don't think there's any level of seniority where you'll always like fumble, and you'll have to go back on things and be like, oh yeah, how I very confidently said that thing yesterday. I'm gonna change my tune on that and say the other thing now because I learned something over the course of the last day or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that does show leadership in general, if you can own those moments and change your mind. It's okay.
And since you said you're in-house now, which is great, well, for one, welcome to the club. But all the companies, I feel like, at least the ones I worked at, it's just so different from one another. They're just, like, there is no, especially then for blueprint, for in-house, there is no blueprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, we don't have our little, I don't know, O'Reilly textbook on what brand design in-house is. Maybe there should be, I don't know. But that's the thing, our fields, like in our discipline, we don't have a textbook. And there will never be like, oh yeah, we should ask that person because they figured it out. They probably figured it out in their own, that one company or companies that they worked at, it will always be different and always changing and evolving. So I don't know how much weight I would give to knowing everything, It's just,
I don't know if you feel pressure as a leader. I'm sure you do. I'm sure both of you do. Just like to be the smartest person in the room and to know all of the things and have been briefed previously and read the white paper on the thing that they're talking about. But it's so many things to learn every day.
yeah.
I found working for companies where I'm excited about the product helps. That way I can like try and fully immerse myself in the product and stay up to date more successfully that way versus, a company where the product is just so foreign to me or like above my head. So that definitely helps. I'm curious if you feel like that at Handshake.
I 100% agree. Yeah, it has to. I joke a lot with people sometimes. It's about what kind of company I want to work at. It's always like it's one that I can explain to my mom in one sentence what I do. So yeah, it helps if you are excited and you understand the company and the business that you work at, or you're in some way invested. Mm-hmm. Then to your point, yes, I agree. It helps because then it will be easier to understand the details.
Totally.
There is one person that I think everyone knows, Charlie Rangley. She works at Kit. She has a YouTube series about inside marketing design. And I have that on my to-do list. And I need to watch every episode. Right. Because I really, truly believe you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And something will occur to you and you'll be like, oh shoot, I've been doing that wrong.
Yeah. A lot of people. And she has a good channel. And very few things or YouTube channels focusing on in-house brand design. So that's really great.
Yeah.
She has
Yeah, the what I love about her episodes are that every person she interviews comes from such a different company. So it is really cool to see where there is overlap and then where there isn't. It just goes to show that like maybe there could be a guidebook with the overlap that does exist because there's
And the thing is like we crave, like I crave those resources and blueprints, and I do it less than I used to because I've always had these questions, being in brand design because of not having the blueprints. What should the progression be? I'm an IC, I've been an IC for a while. Should I be a manager? What should my title be? When will I make it to creative director? Or should I report into this marketing team? Or should I report into design? And one day maybe we will have a textbook, but I think it's not to be too philosophical, but I think you have to know, like I said before, it's like, who are you and why are you here? Mm-hmm. Also, what do those things mean for you? What does the reporting into a design org mean for you specifically? And does it, regardless of what the structure is, like you have to know good people and do good work, I think.
Yeah.
So is in our field of work, because I've seen it could be good or bad either way, at the end, like all those, there's so many stars that need to align. So I
think leaning into values is an important one too.
Values.
Stick to your values and whatever those might be and consistently stick to them. Then I think you should be okay, hopefully.
Yeah. How do you find like the right org for you? Have you ever gone into job searching and just knowing exactly what you want to get out of a company or a job?
Yeah, I think I don't want to say I've seen it all, but I think I've seen quite a range. It's like I reported directly into product. I reported into co-founders. And that happened at Grammarly when I joined. We didn't have a head of design. We reported into the co-founder. as well as briefly about it. And then I reported into marketing. I also reported in chief design officer here at Handshake for a bit. At the end of the day, I think what my ideal org, I don't think it exists, because it would mean, yeah, some kind of design as its own entity for sure, but seat at the table, etc., whatever. But I think brand designers, it would only make sense if brand designers make as much as product designers. You know, there's some kind of parity there. I'll just say it.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I don't know why there would need to be an arbitrary distinction. They are held to the same values and expectations for their levels. They operate within the same market. They're taking the same products to market as well. It's equally intricate. They are usually resourced less, so that means they're covering more per person than product design. So I don't know why it would need to be any other way. So that would be my perfect org. And then the usuals. I love UXR, working with brand and product design, as well as I love design ops. Like, I am a design ops fan. I think if I wasn't like a creative director, I would want to do design ops. I just feel like in general, design ops people are my favorite. All my favorite people are in design ops. So yeah, that would be my ideal org.
I love design ops too.
Yeah,
I've thought about that a lot too if I weren't doing it.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, it is design kind of at the end of the day too, because you're designing processes and ways of working and relieving people, like designers on the team. Whenever they work with a project manager, they're like, "Oh my God, my life is so much easier."
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they are immersed in design as well, and all that they have a different vantage point. They see everything that's going on, and they understand that their design, they're not just doing, traffic control. They understand the work being done, and they're invested in the design.
Yeah, maybe we should all. No, we shouldn't switch. I thought about that for a while too. Like a couple of years ago, I was like, is that what well, that's what I was doing at Datalands. It's
I love it. I know that when I find myself only doing it, I get a little twitchy. It needs to be. That's just me, because I need to be creating as well. I need to be making stuff. The long periods of times where I'm like, oh, I've just been project managing for months, and this does not feel good.
And it is not easy. It's not easy. It's very hard.
Wrangling cats.
Yes.
All over the place. Yeah.
Because there's that, and they're like, they have to be emotionally intelligent. Like, they have to be like financially savvy. And it's just so many skills, very, very important skills at once. It's not easy.
We should all write about how brand design needs to be paid the same as product design, but then also design ops should be paid the same as everybody else as well.
Yeah, I think that, and why that not? Especially in the context of, I've seen a lot of brand designers get really excited about one format or the other. So I always want to report a design org, and so do I, and so did I. And I know a lot of designers, they're still pretty passionate about that, but it starts with asking the question. That's why I said, ask the question, what does it mean to you? And are you going to be making as much as your product designer friends? And if not, why do you want that?
This has been such a good conversation. We totally lost track of time.
No worries. I'm so happy to be chatting with you, and I hope we can do this again, recorded or not.
I would love that.
Today was wonderful. Thanks. A lot of things that you asked me today made me think about what I'm doing here and what I'm doing as a creative. So thank you.
Thank you.